and its ministers negotiate a cash crisis, which happened really late in the day this afternoon. Chris Bowen held a very late press conference, and the splash reads, the nation's energy regulators will be given greater power to procure and store gas after crisis talks with the state and territory energy ministers yesterday. Federal Energy Minister Chris Bowen said his state counterparts agreed to take 11 actions to help with the looming gas crisis, but conceded there was no silver bullet or magic answers. Caleb, I guess this issue, we saw your Premier Daniel Andrews sort of front the media pack today saying, look, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure that we keep gas and electricity prices down for the electorate of Melbourne, because there is an election coming up in November. But 11 points, it's going to be really interesting to see how this flushes out tomorrow.
Indeed, and look, I mean, we were sitting here last week talking about this potential gas crisis, and I said at that time that, you know, we are one of the biggest producers in the world. We have lots of gas, we certainly have lots of coal, and the other thing we have lots of is uranium, but we don't talk about uranium because it's, you know, the Greenies don't like it, even though it's an emissions-free form of power. But the one thing I said last week is that we need to keep the gas for ourselves. Why are we exporting so much gas and talking about having a potential shortage in our own country when we have the resources here? And this seems to be a step in that direction, and certainly in the right direction. No country such as Australia, which is so rich in natural resources, should ever have to worry about the potential of not having enough of those resources. I understand that we make a lot of money by exporting them, but we have to think about our first country first and foremost. And if there is one thing the COVID pandemic should have taught us, it is that self-reliance is paramount. We have seen what happens when you rely on other countries and you run out of things. I know someone who bought a car recently, put their name down for a new car. It's not due to arrive in the country until May 2024. That's what happens when you have shortages of products. And so why would we be in a situation where we do not set ourselves up to be as self-reliant as we possibly can for any natural resource?
Yeah, indeed. Lise, I guess the big issue, which is probably going to hit home in Queensland as well, is the fact that maybe you get the sense that Labor's probably a little bit too reticent to pull that gas trigger because they want to look like they're being collaborative. They don't want to look like they're going against big business and going and trying to, you know, drive down their dividends, and heaven forbid the words mining tax start being bandied about again. But surely, as Caleb points out, we're now coming out of unprecedented times. The general public would understand if they do pull that gas trigger that, you know, came into play in 2017 for times just like this, we'd probably forgive them because we don't want to shiver through the coldest months of the year.
No, well, as we were talking about last week, what we're seeing now is a result of this push for renewable energies, and we need that baseload power. We've been saying it for, you know, on and on and on like a broken record, but right now is when people are starting to feel the pinch, and it could be a very cold winter for a lot of people. Now, what Chris Bowen has done, I think, needs to be applauded because he has actually pulled together all of the energy ministers. He will hold, you know, as much as National Cabinet we criticised for how that turned out during COVID. Let's hope this goes better. But he is pulling them all into one room. He has got this 11-point strategy now. Look, the United States of America has a gas reserve. We don't have that at this point. We should have that in this country. We need to have our energy security front and centre as far as government policy goes. So that's a big tick. He needs to support more exploration. He needs to make it easier for gas companies to go out there and find where they can mine more gas and drill more gas. And I think the fact that Daniel Andrews can stand up and say, you know, he's going to fight for more gas for Victoria. I'm sorry, in Victoria they've only just allowed drilling to operate again in Victoria, and you are still not allowed to frack in Victoria. So I don't understand how he can sit in Victoria and say, OK, I'm going to take all of my gas from everywhere else, but predominantly here, and only now say, well, OK, I'm going to allow drilling to occur again. It's hypocrisy.